As Matt said, this is a series that we do that's usually sponsored by our central government council, but we talk to public sector leaders, digital leaders, and we kind of want to know them as people, kind of understand what motivates them, what gets them out of bed in the morning, what keeps them up at night sometimes, and how we can support them to deliver services for everyone. And we always start by asking, what did you want to be when you grew up, Ben? What did little Ben want to be?
Well, little Ben was a very, very long time ago. But I was thinking about this. I was thinking back to my time at school, and we had this huge multiple choice question on the computer that we had to fill out that was going to tell us what our future career was. And mine was always Coast Guard.
Coast Guard?
Coast Guard,
okay.
Which was really interesting given I lived in Surrey, so nowhere near the coast, horrible commute. So that one didn't pan out. So yeah, that was the thing that I was supposed to be.
So how did it go from possibly, but probably not Coast Guard, to Ministry of Housing, local communities and local government?
Yeah, so it's a very, I was never sort of intended to have a career in digital and technology particularly. I did a business computing degree, and then I ended up doing some consultancy work as soon as I left university and became a developer. So doing lots of coding. And I had my own like small consultancy. I was doing stuff for sort of local businesses. At that time, it was like where the internet was in real growth. There was lots of, everyone needed a website, and there were loads of things for me to do as a young Ben. And then sort of work started to dry up, and my parents encouraged me to get a job at my council, for a couple of days a week to just have a steady income. It was a really great place to work. It's a steady job. And I didn't really know particularly what a council did back then. But I ended up starting off in the service desk, fixing computers when they were big towers under the desk, so crawling under the desk to fix them, and just loved it about what a council does. So we were talking earlier. I think Eddie was, and others were talking in the previous session about the positive impact that a local authority can have, and I just got bitten by it, and I've stayed since. So I then moved into being a developer at the council, and then moved into digital transformation and service transformation. And around the time that where Lord Maud was talking about all the digital transformation stuff happening in central government, I was sort of bought into that, and became part of a community of local government practitioners that were trying to do have a similar change in local government that was happening in central government. So I was part of a group called Local Gov Digital, which was just this peer network of people from across the country, that were trying to affect this change. And then in 2018, there was an opportunity to join what was MHCLG back then as well. We've gone back to an old name to join the local digital team, which is where I'm at now, and do some of that stuff that I used to do as like a hobby time, and become the job to support local government, to try and realise some of the potential of digital transformation and more recently cybersecurity as well, and working on the cyber resilience of the sector. So it's been a very sort of varied and opportunity, but predominantly focused around public service for me.
Amazing. Thank you. So now thinking about your role at
MHCLG.
Okay. There we go. What are your top priorities on a day-to-day? What are the things that you are like, these are the key important things for me?
Yeah, so I think, well, I know I could repeat a lot of the things that were talked about in the previous session, actually. So we are a team in central government that are there to try and help local authorities, with digital transformation and say improve their cyber resilience. So we're working on many of the similar things that like Eddie talked about from a London perspective. We're looking nationally across England at that. I think the things that sort of keep me up at night are the security side of things, and that is, well, that's a very real issue at present. So whether that's from the challenge of how do we handle legacy IT, but we are an attractive sector for both cyber criminals and for nation state actors as well. Either looking for a disruptive to disrupt local public services, or just the opportunity of stealing data and that being able to hold councils to ransom, which is a pretty horrific thing. So I think there's that part of it. And then the other side is just as Eddie described, it's herding cats. We've got local authorities across the country, all with a slightly different vision of what they want, where they want to be, what they want to get to. We can see all the central government departments also, that are reliant on local authorities to deliver the policy and the services that they want, also having completely different views. So we try, and try being the big word there, to try and sort of bring some cohesion and convene departments and the sector around some of those things, working closely with others like the LGA and SOCTIM and the other sorts of membership bodies. But having sort of one foot in this, I guess, the central government camp allows us to have some of those conversations. So I think, it's that big sort of service transformation opportunity. I think wanting to move people away from just thinking about things in terms of transactional services and to that, what is the service models and the approaches that we should be taking to deliver services. And I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges actually is getting people to move on from automating transactions, thinking that AI is just going to be a great way to automate some more transactions and not actually get to the root of what are the service models that we need to have to deliver the right public services to support citizens with their challenges.
Great, thanks so much for that. So sort of thinking about your work in the councils, how do you work with industry to help shape how you deliver and how they can better deliver in councils?
I think that's a great question. And I think we've tried different tactics. I think over the while. I think that's been one of the frustrations when I was working in a council, was that the ability to talk to suppliers is huge challenge. So where you're one of 300 odd councils, when you're trying to talk to one of the big suppliers, they're not bothered. They're in a big contract. But then also when you're talking to a smaller supplier, there's council's risk aversion because of some of the challenges that Eddie talked about. It's finding the time to do that and take a risk on what could be an unproven product and supplier. So I think we've worked with techUK before in the past to talk to the sector, talk to the providers. I think it's something that we want to do more of. And we are getting better at doing that. So certainly through some of our cyber work, we've been engaging more with companies, particularly in the bad moments around incidents. But I think we're certainly keen to work with you more to look at the opportunities around the more transformative side of things and see where we can harness technology and better to deliver services.
That sounds great. Maybe you can talk a little bit about the perspective around SMEs and the work that they do with councils, and because it seems we hear from a lot of SMEs that that's a really good sort of foot in the door for them with working with public sector. So, but understandably the risk aversion there.
Yeah, so I think some of the things. So previously we've had things called like the local digital fund, where we funded local authorities to work on challenges and who have as part of that, have encouraged, or mandated in some cases, them to use things like the digital marketplace to work on that challenge. So that isn't, means that there's much more opportunity for SMEs to get involved there. I think as we've also done some capability work around, use of digital design, skills and practice, which I think has helped where, we've gone from a scenario where a service team just wants to buy the next upgrade for the big system. And actually what we want them to do is stop and think about what they want to achieve, and think about not going to market with that 200-page tender, and break things down and look at the different options that are on the market, available from the market. And I think there have been other sort of innovation type collaboration sessions that we've run in the past, where we can have suppliers that come in and talk about what work on challenges with councils, so that they can we can basically have that conversation around what is available and hopefully meet needs better. That didn't make very much sense. Sorry.
I think we get what you're going for. Just a couple more questions before we turn it to the room, be prepared. We will also ask you what you wanted to be when you were little.
That's what I'm looking
So,
forward
yes.
to hearing.
Don't worry, I'll give mine too. But Ben, so sort of looking over your whole career, the challenges that you face, and sort of your position and the role that you have, what do you think are sort of the leadership principles that really guide you and help and sort of shape the way that you work?
Yeah, so I think I'm a strong believer in like making things open, and that we shouldn't, hide things away. So we should, try and talk as much as you can openly with the whole team. I think one of the other key principles as well is like we should, build strong teams, not projects. So focus on the team. So build a good multidisciplinary team and support them. And then if they're they can build the right relationships, they've got the right skills mix, and then you can give them pretty much any problem to work on. So within the program, within the local digital program, we're now moving to that team model of having sort of 5 service teams and trying to empower them as much as possible, and make sure they've got all the right skills that they need, and give them the permission to to make as many decisions as possible themselves, give them ownership over the budget, and just agree, the outcomes that they're working towards and empower them, which is great because it means that I do not have to get involved in lots of detailed conversations day to day with all these different teams. I can, most of them I talk to sort of once every couple of weeks. They can show me and the rest of the program, the progress that they've made. We can give feedback in a constructive way, and I can just trust them to get on and know that they're going to do a great job. So sort of empowering teams, focus on the team, and give them as much ownership over what they're doing as possible to deliver the outcomes that we need.
That sounds great. I have a couple more questions here, but I think I will sort of pause and see if anyone in the audience has any questions. Oh, we have a couple there. Oh, Annie, this lady here. Yes, thank you. It was you, right?
Yeah, there was
one behind as well.
Oh, sorry. Don't worry, we have time. What did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a forensic scientist because I watched a lot of Silent Witness. I'm now a project manager, so as you can see, work really well. So my question was, we've spoken so much today around procurement, structures of organisations, having more ownership, and it's really, really great to hear. We all know there's a lot of bureaucracy. How do we move away from that and get the empowerment that we need to actually do all of the fantastic things we've been talking about today?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? I think that we've not got the silver bullet to answer that. I think for us, I think one of the big shifts has been focusing on what I talked about earlier, actually. So outcomes. Like one of the challenges that we've had was like when we pitch into spending review and things like that, is that we keep being asked, like, how much money do you need? How many is it going to buy? Like, how many councils are going to be fixed? And what is it? Like, I don't know the answer. I can't predict what I'm going to achieve in a 3-year spending review. But focusing on the outcome of what we want to achieve, and so the outcomes-based approach, I think has worked. And making sure that senior leaders understand that as well. And I've had I think more success than some other teams in getting that sort of focus on an outcome-based approach. So I think giving teams the freedom and people the freedom to do that, keeping that focus on outcomes. But I think it's a thing that we have to keep challenging ourselves on. I'm afraid, and we will get there. And I think like things like the mission-based government approach that's coming out, I think is a really interesting. Still not quite sure how that will pan out because it's so early on. But I think that does feel like there's a broader shift to the outcomes-based approach, which I'm excited to see what happens next there.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Ben. From London Borough for Bridge Local Authority.
What did you want to be? You're not going to get, you're not going to escape that.
Oh, gosh, this is an age question. Pilot, and careers officer said no female pilots. Yep, there we go. But I still got close to tech, so I've always enjoyed working in tech. So I love the point about the service design, and I'm thinking, Ben, you need to elaborate more on this, because we've just got about the end user conversation going on at Redbridge. And I think last year or the year before, I tried to go for a service designer in my team. Didn't get anywhere with it, and I'm looking, well, let me put a bit more context. Had a chat with our corporate director for adult social care. We were successful with digital funding round 6. Sadly, didn't, as you all know, that sort of ended. Hopefully you could tell me more about things on the horizon. That would be really useful for a local authority. But one of the points we pointed out was about the service design, and the adult social care corporate director completely acknowledged this. He's currently our interim chief exec as well. But we've never moved forward with that conversation. And I'm thinking, well, how do you start that conversation? Who am I targeting? Is it the finance director? Is it a program? Is it a kind of, where do I get the budget from first? Where are those tips where local authorities start to build service design into the portfolio of programs and projects that we have to run? Because we can buy the tech. Another little point I'll add, capital funding. Yes, we can buy the tech. There's an asset. Oh, looking at service design, oh, that's not going to make capital funding, is it?
So a couple of things there. So I think I've seen some councils, and certainly within the department now, we are capitalising the costs of people, so particularly things like service designers where they're working on something. So that might be something to look into further there. I think so. I've got. So there's another example of a council where, I suppose, don't get hung up on the name. So, people can't recruit a service designer because they don't know what it is, but they could recruit a business analyst. So it's fine, if you've got to call it a business analyst, call it a business analyst. So it's find what works. And the same way that I've seen councils where they've we can't do agile, we can't do agile project management. That's not going to fly here. But they can do 2 weekly maintenance on the website, but it's just so it's find the way to sort of hack and get what people understand. So we our leadership is a really important thing, and it's something that is rising up the agenda within the department. I know you've got Owen sitting behind you. I think there, at the LGA, we do lots of work with Owen and the team there. Around capability and leadership, work. So it's an area where we want to see more. I think what I'm really excited about the Centre for Digital Government work that's being led by DCIT, so looking at how government approaches digital. I think there's lots of things that I'm excited to see how that pans out there about rather than individual councils having all the capability themselves. How can we go further than collaboration? And maybe convene councils further to work on single projects, and see what we can do at scale, so that it's not reliant on every council having a team of service designers, a team of product managers, and user researchers, etc. How can we get the sector working more deeply together and adopting solutions and practices, but that's underway, and more to come there, I think. So I think watch this space in that respect. And then I think you also asked a little bit about funding. Again, I've got nothing to announce right now, but we will see post-spending review where we get to on that.
Thanks. I think we have a couple more. Yes, back there. Did you want to as well? Is this a tentative hand? The lady in the back first, and then we're coming to you right after.
Thank you. Rosa Bolger from Tussle. Ben, really enjoyed
Tussle, what did you want to be?
Yeah.
No one's getting out of this.
I wanted to be a figure skater, which
Oh, what now? Sorry?
a figure skater.
Wow.
Oh, how exciting.
Now I work in tech. Ben, I've really enjoyed learning a bit about you, and especially your transition from local government to central government. I ask this, I suppose, as somebody who works in tech and have done for quite a while now, but also someone who's been an elected councillor in a fairly rural council. I'd love to understand your views on the kind of ambition to implement digital transformation in different councils, and if there's barriers between those kind of metropolitan city councils and more rural districts like I'm in.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I think that there is a big disparity in between the ambition and view of local authorities, across the country. I don't think it's necessarily like rural versus, urban necessarily. It does vary. I think more depending on the background of the elected leadership actually more than anything, and like their particular ambition. So, and in part, that's where when the team was formed in 2018, we had the local digital declaration that we asked local authorities to sign up to, was to try and convene, the sector again towards one vision, with some success, But I think that's part of the challenge that we have in the centre of like how do we support local authorities. You've got some that want to be real tech leaders and want to be at the cutting edge and adopting, the latest and greatest and smart city technology and that kind of things. And you've got others that are actually just focused on actually wanting to have a really good service to citizens that probably isn't about doing it online. Actually, it's about having a really great in-person experience because they're a really small council and they can do that, or having a really great telephone experience. Nevertheless, like the challenges persist, and the same, like they're still underpinned by technology and services, the same very similar sets of services. So I think like that's part of the challenge that we've got. I think I would like to see councils come together more around that and work on a more similar vision for on how they deliver and what they do. That is also sort of aligned to some of my answer to the previous question around can we actually then have more of a centralized or central capability, careful on my wording, about how we redesign services. I suppose it's probably also an opportunity to make a shout out about things like standards as well, so data standards and like API standards, that does allow flexibility. So if we can get some consistency on things like the data that's collected, that does still allow like local councils, localization and slight nuance in how services are delivered. But I think it's like for me, I think the autonomy of councils is also what makes them great, in that they can really meet the needs of their citizens. But it is also one of the biggest hindrances to reform and like some of that structural reform that we need of the services that we deliver and changing those service models, because we have that diversification. And I probably change my mind every week on whether we should just centralise or just let it all go. Because it's a really, really hard and knotty problem. But it is also what makes local government really interesting for me as well.
Thank you. I wanted to be an archaeologist originally. So I just
Archaeologist. Nice.
And I also remember the name of that app. It was JigCal you used at school, I think.
I can't remember what it was.
I don't know how I remember that, but I just do.
Yeah.
Now my question was really about local government structures. And do you think sort of alternative structures would be useful in terms of pushing forward the right agenda? I'm sort of looking at the moment. I live in Surrey as well, I think, like yourself, and I'm an ex-councillor from Guildford for 12 years. I did that for 12 years for my sins, and at the moment there's an interesting experiment going on with a shared chief executive and other senior staff between Waverley and Guildford. So what are your thoughts on those sort of things?
Guildford was the first council I worked at. So yes, Steve Bragg-Morley was my boss when I joined. So I think, I have to be careful probably what I say here. So I guess this is my personal view, and it's not an area that I am directly involved in. But I think where councils, we've seen lots of councils that will share services. And see, Owen, stop laughing. He's loving the awkwardness of this question. I think there is an interesting thing about what's the right size for like a local authority. There are pros and cons to it all. I think there's an interesting digital angle to that now the internet exists. There are services that councils have traditionally delivered they probably don't need to anymore, that where they've been delivered on behalf, they are sort of centrally mandated but locally delivered. Perhaps they don't need to be delivered in that way anymore. There are other services where they are have been more centrally mandated and locally delivered, where actually if councils are upskilled and have those service design capabilities and things, actually central government should let go of that and allow councils to get on and deliver design those services in the right way. On the scale thing, I think you will see that change, and I think there is something about there are probably some councils that are too small now, and where they are starting to share, maybe that is a sign that actually they need to there needs to be more structural reform there and reorganisation, but that is not my policy area, and we should talk to the team that are looking at that.
It's probably a wise answer. I have one more question for you. So we do have quite a few suppliers in the room, and just sort of in the spirit of better engagement, better understanding, tell us what you would like to see the supplier community sort of stop doing, start doing, and continue doing. What kinds of things do you think, oh, it'd be really great if they did this, or like, I like that thing, keep doing that thing, and like, gosh, I hate when you do this other thing here.
So I'm probably going to answer that in two parts. So one with my cybersecurity side of the program hat on. I think the start is probably know your supply chain better and be able to explain that to councils. We are seeing an increasing number of vulnerabilities, and the supply chain is sort of the weak link in that. And when it comes to it, councils need to understand whether they are holding that vulnerability, and quite often we've seen examples where suppliers also don't know whether that vulnerability exists in their products, and there's lots of scrabbling around. And when it's a live thing, we cannot be wasting time, trying to understand whether our products and services are vulnerable. So I think that's the key thing: is please look at your supply chain, and also share that information with local authorities. I think the thing to stop, on the cyber side, is if something goes wrong, if there is an incident impacting your company, please talk to your customers about it. Don't go silent or try and pretend it's not a thing. Talk to them, because if data has been taken and things like that, then the earlier that we know that, the more we can do to sort of help and mitigate, the consequences of things like data being taken or a service being disrupted. So they're the sort of the two things on the cyber side. On the digital transformation, I think use data standards. So look at APIs and data standards, and make data more available. We've done a lot of talk about AI and things today. We don't know, how we're going to be able to use data and join data up. We're still experimenting and with things like AI, and there will be new technologies that come along. So the more that we can make data available and reusable, and not, locked away within systems, is really, really important. And then I think I'm just thinking, what's a stop one on the transformation side? So there's something shouted at them. So I think probably stop being so siloed in a way. Like we've seen lots of vendors or some of the bigger vendors that just want to sort of build their own ecosystems. I think it's like work more with partners, work more with SMEs as well. So if you're a big supplier, please look to SMEs and see what solutions and innovation that they have done, and make that part of your offering, or create a marketplace for them, for councils to sort of pick and work with those SMEs. So there's those sort of things that I would call out.
Great.
But happy to also take some questions about those if people would like to talk some more.
Any other questions? Oh, here. Oh, guys. All right.
There we go.
Currently, I'm coordinating a lot of different mental health groups in my area. I'm helping them kind of get their various campaigns in a bit more coherent and pull resources and things. And I'm from Watford, where Harry Potter lives. And we are creating a campaign called Big Selfie. It's on the website, bigselfie.info. But the aim is to make Watford the most mentally healthy town in the UK. But then we're looking to then expand it out into the county, and then ultimately, perhaps even nationally, to see which town in the whole of the UK is the most mentally healthy. Primarily to address stigma around mental health, but also to improve productivity and performance at work. I'm just wondering, with regards to all your experience working with councils, have there been any initiatives or services that started locally, but then they were scaled and end up being used county-wide and even nationally? What kind of things have you seen that have actually succeeded in that kind of way?
So I think that probably not enough, and I think that's part of the challenge is getting awareness. So we've had a few examples that we've lent in and funded over the time. So I think probably the most successful one has been Local Gov Drupal. So that was around the Drupal content management system. That was a project that was started, I think, between it was Brighton and Croydon. It's now been adopted by, I think it's like 60 councils or so. And it no longer has any funding from us as a team. Like it is a self-governing model. You know, the councils, pay in and fund that. There's also been some work around a data center called Open Referral that's starting to gain traction. So Open Referral is a data standard that started in the US around supports making a directory of support services. There's been work that happened at, I think it was Buckinghamshire when it was a county, and then Essex, and then again we've scaled that, supported scaling that, and we've currently got a team that's hoping to drive adoption of that. I think also it's worth talking to things like the LGA and Owen and other colleagues, because again part of it is just raising awareness and getting the platform. So I'm happy to follow up with you, and we can see what we can do to support. But I know the LGA will also stand by and look to support local authorities where there's good practice. We shouldn't be reinventing this. We should be trusting and adopting what is being done. What good work already exists. So that's a key part of what we want to see happen is stopping reinventing the wheel.
I think we'll take a final one from this side of the room, if anybody on this side.
Someone at
Here
the
we
back
go.
row, wasn't there?
And I forgot with you, but I remember now. What did you want to be when you grew up?
I want to be a marine biologist, but I lived...
A marine biologist?
So,
were you
long way from
landlocked
the
as
sea.
well, or?
Okay, so my question is dredging up a phrase from the past. Beacon authorities, this idea of seizing on really good examples and then replicating that elsewhere. Is that something that's still running? And if so, how would you get councils to get really good examples of particular services and popularise them, get them spread around?
So I'm not familiar. Is it Beacon authorities? You said so. I'm not familiar with those, but I think I can speak to some of the work that we have been doing, and I think part of quite often the challenge of the way government approaches things is they will approach it at a council level, and as local authority people will know particularly, local authorities are vast, and they have all these different microcultures within them because the different services they deliver. So you've got a housing team, a waste team, revenues and benefits, etc., etc. And they're all their own fiefdoms, and they have their own cultures and practices. And I think when we're trying to find great practice and share, we need to tackle it down at a team level or at a service level and find that way in. We had a programme last year called Future Councils, where we had looked to sort of test, that taking more of a whole council approach to supporting transformation and building resilience, and it wasn't the most successful, but that was part of the learning, because I think trying to tackle the whole organisation at the same time was too much. We needed to zone in. So I think it's I guess my answer is that I think there is definitely opportunity to share, but you need to sort of start small and zone in on a particular problem area, and you will have, success with some councils in one particular service area. But then if you were to go back to that council and talk to them about another service area, you might not be successful at all. It's just because of the different cultures that exist. And we've just got to accept that and roll with it for now, because there are plenty of councils to support and lots to do. So I think it's like keep moving, don't slow down, and find the people that you can work with.
Thank you so much. I'm going to sort of draw things to a close here. I know we have 4 more minutes, but we really don't.
Yeah, I think we're
trying to
running
get
behind.
everything back on track agenda-wise. Anybody want to guess what I want it to be? No guesses? You're right. I never dreamed of labor when I was a child. No, my dream job was game show host, right?
Wow.
Me here, you in the hot seat for
Yeah,
£1 million.
yeah.
Yeah? You can see it, right?
It's £1 million.
Remember that? Who Wants to
Yeah,
Be a Millionaire? Yeah. Ben, thank you so much for your
Thank you.
time, and thanks for the work that you're doing and for allowing us to sort of understand what your challenges are and how we can help and support that. So please join me in thanking Ben.